This podcast has been brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Help us spread the light of prophetic guidance to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Make a small donation at seekersguidance.org/donate. For as little as $10 a month, you can help people find life-changing guidance.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to another episode here. We have another lesson on the Zad al-Talibin provisions for the seekers. We've reached now hadith number 48, inshallah, and we'll continue from here. Hadith number 48. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This reads, طلب كسب الحلال طلب كسب الحلال فريضة بعد الفريضة طلب كسب الحلال فريضة بعد الفريضة. To seek lawful earnings is an obligatory duty following other obligatory duties. This hadith is related by Imam al-Bayhaqi and others. So, in other words, seeking kasbi halali, to seek out lawful earning, right? Earning a living is obligatory, is only obligatory upon those who must support themselves and their dependents, and not upon those under the responsibility of somebody else. So, for example, this kind of comes up as at which point are we obligated to get a job? And many of you that are probably listening, your youth, you're probably going in high school, maybe you're in college, you're trying to get an education, and you're on your way to earning your own income, right? Earning a livelihood, starting a career, getting a job. This hadith applies to you. Now, notice this hadith says, طَلَبُ كَسْبِ الْحَلَالِ. Not just earning, طَلَبُ كَسْب, which a lot of Muslims, this is how we think, earning a living. No, it's halal, right? طَلَبُ كَسْبِ الْحَلَالِ. Now, this extension of another added word of halal, honestly, if you really look at the lives of many of us, that makes it extra effort. There's extra effort involved in that. So it's not just earning a living, earning a lawful living. Halal earnings, right, is an obligatory duty after the other obligations, and this is obligatory. So, for example, a woman who is under the protection of her father, right, it's not obligatory for her to work. Or her husband is not obligated to earn. So for example, a woman who is under the protection of her father or her husband is not obligated to earn. So we better back up and just clarify that line. So any woman who, so this is for me, it's a leeway. It's basically saying that for our sisters, it's not obligatory for them to work. If their father is in charge, right, they have a father, can take care of her, that's on the father, not on her. Or her husband, who's responsible in Islam, husbands are responsible to provide for their wife and children. This is an obligatory matter that is very clear in Islamic law. Women are not in charge or have to provide for the family. Now, if she has a lawful income of her own, she keeps that money for herself, while the husband, if he has his income, the family have a right to it, and they have to basically take care of their family. So there's an obligation upon them. Now, this is not obviously at the same level of like prayers and fasting, zakat, stuff like that. Those are individual obligations, fard ayn upon every Muslim, and there are of higher importance. So the takeaway from this is that put in extra effort, even if that means another year of education or maybe two, or if that means that you take a job that pays you a little less than another job, but it is halal, that would be obligatory, right? And we can add a lot more, but inshallah, that's how much we'll cover for that hadith. Next hadith is hadith number 49. And this hadith reads, حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. Now, this translates as love of this world is the origin of all sin. حب الدنيا, love of the world, is the root cause of every sin. Now, one way we can look at this is that all sins that occur where? In the world. What is the cause of why you committed a sin? Because your love for that sin, your love for whatever it was that you were seeking. A person who drinks alcohol, it's their love for that feeling that it brings them, which belongs to where? Part of the world. So, loving the dunya, this is the place where if we fall in love with the world, where do we become blind to? The hereafter. Right? Loving the world distances you from the hereafter. A person who loves the hereafter very much and is looking forward to it harms their worldly life, because they're not about, getting the top education and getting the busiest job and then working 60 hours a week, to make a lot of money and buy that dream house, buy the best car, this and that. A person who's very concerned about the hereafter and fears that they might die very soon is going to balance their talab, balance their acquisition or seeking out of the world. It's going to be balanced, right? So we must realize that there's a love of the world that could basically completely destroy us. And that is where we're so in love with worldly desires, parties, alcohol, going out, enjoying music, doing all these things that make us drown in the love of the world, which in return, in reality, does not satiate, right? Does not satiate. Anyone who's partying on Friday nights is only going to want to do the same thing next week. If they do haram things, they're only going to want to keep doing it. It never will nourish them. And this is one of the biggest problems, because the soul, the human being, is made up of a soul and a body. So what they're doing is constantly obeying their body, but they're not giving the soul its right. So the soul has its right. And you could say also the soul has its cravings. And the soul is satiated by the dhikr of Allah, by worship, by ibadah. People that don't give the soul its right and its nourishment end up being depressed, lonely, big hole in their heart for what they're yearning, but they're never ever happy. So they turn to drugs, they turn to things that numbs them from the reality of life. They go bungee jumping, they do skydiving, anything to get a thrill, to make them forget about the pain and the hurt of reality, which is this world. So you have to be very, very careful. As us as Muslims, we balance out our love, right? Loving your life in order to worship God is fine. To study, to work, to earn a living, doing this as a way of receiving reward from Allah, that's not called dunya. Loving the beauty of nature, trees, birds, the creation of Allah, appreciating these things, looking at them. The Prophet ﷺ in the Shama'il liked looking at greenery. He liked looking at flowing water, right? These things remind us of the hereafter, and Allah uses these analogies in the Quran. Jannatun tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Gardens and paradise underneath with which rivers flow. These are all similitudes of the hereafter. There's nothing wrong with looking and enjoying that which is halal. Now, the dunya is that which distracts us from Allah, distracts us from our responsibilities and what we're supposed to do while in this world. As you recall the famous hadith, min husn al-Islam al-mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'ni. From the excellence of a person's Islam is leaving what doesn't concern one, right? So the dunya is the illusionary aspect, that which distracts us and leads us into sin, diverts us away from our core purpose, which is worship of Allah and using this world in order to build our next world, right? When we get so connected in this world that we forget about the hereafter, that is called dunya. And that is a illusionary aspect that completely misguides you and fools you concerning the reality. So, hubb dunya, how do we drive ourselves away from hubb dunya? By worship, right? Longing for those things, reading about the companions, reading about the Prophet ﷺ, reciting the Quran, worshiping, fasting. These things connect us to our hereafter, right? And having zuhud, having abstinence, I mentioned this in the last talk as well, which is to have a level of doing without this world. Don't desire, expensive things. Try to leave those things for the sake of Allah. Take from the world what you need, right? Take from the world. If you go in the best store you ever wanted to go into, if you had like 10 hours to look around, sure, you'll look at every single thing and enjoy your time. But if you go in your favorite store and I say, okay, you got exactly 2 minutes, go in and out, you're going to skip all the stuff you really don't need. You're going to go get exactly what you need. And this world is like that for us. We don't have all the time in the world to be here, to do whatever we want. Life is short. One thing to another moves very quickly. You have to focus and you have to take from the world exactly what you need and then move on. Don't look back, right? The next hadith, which is hadith number 50. So this is love of the world. Just one more point about it. If you sit with people who are driven, hereafter driven, ukhrawi driven by higher aspirations, lofty goals, which have to do with the hereafter, that's who you want to surround yourself with, and they will help you detach your love of this world. Okay, so that's some advice. The next hadith is hadith number 50. أفضل صدقتي أن تشبع كبدا جائعا. أفضل صدقتي أن تشبع كبدا جائعا. The most virtuous charity is that you satisfy a hungry stomach. أفضل صدقة. Now there's a lot of kinds of sadaqah. Sadaqah is charity. The best of it is that you satisfy a hungry stomach. One of the ulama, actually a couple of ulama in their different books of commentary mention that this includes, for example, Imam al-Tibi says this is all inclusive, meaning that the best charity in this case would be to feed a believer, a disbeliever, one who talks, one who doesn't talk, meaning an animal. So any creature of Allah, if you feed them or you spend sadaqah on them, right, to feed them, etc., this is the best of all sadaqah, right? Because it's a greater mercy, encompassing mercy. So, mashallah, see, our religion teaches us to care. Now, sometimes when we talk about zakat, brothers and sisters, zakat is only for a Muslim. The right of zakat only extends to Muslims. If people hear that, especially non-Muslims, they feel like we hate them, we don't have any goodness towards them, which is not true. Because we love the entire creation of Allah for the sake of Allah, but we do not love their disbelief and their bad actions, right? We have love for them in the sense that they're the creation of Allah, they're from the children of Adam, we want guidance for them, we want good for them. And in terms of our interactions, if they're our neighbors, if they're our colleagues, if we're involved with them, we show them goodness because this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So all that is very inclusive, so we have to remember that. So anyway, what I was mentioning was, so when we mention zakat and people get upset, bring this up, that sadaqah could be given to all. Feeding the poor is not just about feeding a Muslim poor, it's about feeding any human being, right? And when we share these stories, people will understand the vastness of our beautiful religion and that we can say, well, zakat is for Muslims, but sadaqah is also for non-Muslims as well. We can definitely help out. Just like at times, somebody would ask me, can a woman be an imam? And I said, no, they cannot in Islamic law. But what is an imam according to your understanding? Because a lot of non-Muslims, they think being an imam just means a person who does any type of religious service. And also from their perspective, like in their traditions, priests and rabbis and others, they're kind of like chosen, anointed, and they have to go through a different process. Or for us as Muslims, if it's time to pray Maghrib, there's 5 people there or 3 people there. You look around, you're like, okay, you be Imam right now because you got to lead the prayer, right? And at times what I tell them is that our sisters, they can lead a discussion, they can teach something, they can make dua, right? They can give advice. They can do these other things that Imams also do, but they cannot lead the prayer to where there's men and women there, because that's the role of the man, and that's what our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us. This is the model that he left, and what is good and bad is what he told us is good and bad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do be mindful of that and remember those things. And ultimately, we're only trying to please Allah, not anybody other than Allah, because by pleasing the creation, God forbid at the expense of losing the divine favor, then we failed completely. Walayadu billah. So let's go to the next hadith. This hadith is number 51. So this hadith reads, "Manhumani la yashba'ani, manhumani la yashba'ani, manhumun fil ilmi la yashba'u minhu, wa manhumun fil dunya la yashba'u minha." And there are different narrations of this, but this translates to the following: 2 greedy people, right? And that's kind of, it's okay translation, right? Manhumani are people that are very desirous. They have a craving, right? These 2 people that have a deep sense of wanting something, greedy in that sense, are never satiated. One who has a deep desire and craving for knowledge can never get enough of it. And one who is greedy or desirous or very much craving for worldly possessions, dunya again, there's that word, right? Dunya, can never get enough of it, right? So 2 people who are hungry, who are greedy, can never be satiated. A seeker of knowledge and a seeker of dunya. Now, the seeker of knowledge is never satiated, because the more you learn, the more you desire. There's never an end to knowledge. Knowledge goes on and on and on. In all honesty, right? Many scholars mention that one of my teachers, he said he's been reading Quran and he's been finishing it over and over for the last 30 plus years. He said there's never a time that he starts the Quran again except he'll see things in it he didn't see before, right? People read hadith books, they've read it over and over, they've taught it over and over. But each time they see something they didn't see before, they learn something they didn't know before. It's like a desire that is never satiated, because you're always learning, your heart is expanding, you're becoming more enriched by that which you're seeking, and you're becoming always hungrier and hungrier. And similarly is the person who's seeker of the dunya, right? And there's a hadith that I really love, I wanted to share. It's really like, subhanAllah, all hadiths are amazing, but this one really is something else. And this hadith says, whoever is concerned about the hereafter, man kanat al-akhiratu hammahu, whoever makes the hereafter the greater of their concerns, جَعَلَ اللَّهُ غِنَاءَهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ وَجَمَعَ اللَّهُ لَهُ شَمْلَهُ, and Allah will place richness in his heart and bring his affairs together. Meaning he'll take care of all of the affairs of his worldly matters. And the world will come to him, although he is reluctant for it. Like he doesn't want the world comes to him. Whoever is concerned about the world, the dunya, right? Man kanat dunya hammahu, whoever made the dunya his concern, his worry, his desire, right? What does it say? جَعَلَ اللَّهُ فَقْرَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ وَلَيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. Allah will place poverty between his eyes, a'udhu billah, right? And then what will he do? He says, جَعَلَ اللَّهُ فَقْرَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ وَفَرَّقَ عَلَيْهِ شَمْلَهُ. And then he will also disperse and disorder his affairs, and he will get nothing from the world. وَلَمْ يَأْتِيهِ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا, nothing he will gain from the world, nothing of the world will come to him, إِلَّا مَا قَدَّرَ لَهُ, except what is already decreed for him. And subhanAllah, this teaches us, brothers and sisters, if you understood this hadith, make your worries and your stress one which is about Allah in the hereafter. And if you do that, everything else will come in its place. And that's why another narration of this says, مَنْ كَانَ هَمُّهُ هَمًّا وَاحِدًا كَفَاهُ اللَّهُ هَمَّهُ. Whoever makes all their concerns one concern, Allah will suffice all of their concern. And whoever makes their concern every affair or every valley, Allah will not care, and which of these will bring about His destruction. So whoever makes Allah the greatest of all their concern, makes one concern which is Allah, Allah will gather all their worries and take care of them. Some of the versions of this hadith also mentions that they will not wake up, whoever Allah enriches like that will wake up being enriched. They will wake up ghaniyan. They will be rich. They'll go to sleep rich, right? True richness, which is all their affairs are put together and they don't desire anything of this world. And for the loser, the person who made the world their concern and Allah dispersed all their affair and the world never came to them except what Allah had already decreed, for them they wake up as needy, faqiran, and they go to sleep at night as faqiran, which is poor, in need. Now faqir for us does not mean someone who doesn't have money. The faqir, it does in terms of law, like in zakat and other stuff, but the true faqir, the faqir means the one who is in need. If you don't desire the world and you only want Allah, you are really in a state of ghina. You're in a state of richness because you don't desire the world. Right? Now, so going back to where we started in this hadith, if you recall, the seeker of knowledge and the seeker of dunya will never be satiated. This is what it is. Right? So, I just want to read one narration about knowledge that will help you to always keep seeking it, inshallah. One of the companions, Ibn Masud, he said, for me to sit in a gathering of knowledge for an hour is more beloved to me than fasting a day and staying up in prayer during its night. So seek knowledge, brothers and sisters. It has the greatest reward. It is the greatest means of being mostly connected to your Lord. And inshallah, you'll get great benefit. The last hadith that we'll cover today is hadith number 52. And this hadith reads, أفضل الجهاد من قال كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر. أفضل الجهاد من قال كلمة حق عند سلطان جائر. Which could be translated as the following: that the most virtuous jihad, and jihad is the struggle in Allah's cause. At times it could be a battle, at times it could be a struggle against your own self. But this is not the modern use of a lot of misinformed people, what they think jihad means. Jihad is a noble word. It means to struggle for the right cause. The most virtuous jihad or struggle is one who speaks a word of truth before or in the presence of an unjust ruler. Unjust ruler, sultanin jair. So this is the most virtuous, and this is because the person who speaks the truth in front of a tyrant, a ruler who's a tyrant, places himself in a dangerous position, just as a warrior does in battle, right? Just as a warrior does in battle. They put themselves in a dangerous position, because if you're going out in front of a sultan, a emperor, a president, a ruler, and they're corrupt, and then you speak the truth before power, you speak the truth and you stand up for that which is right, that which is just, that which commands to good, that which forbids evil, right? This is not for every one of us, by the way. This is not necessarily for you and I to do. It is for those in authority who are able to give that advice and speak up words of truth and justice should do so, right? And so if they do that, they put themselves in a position because, again, this person can harm them, they can kill them, a lot of other things could happen, God forbid. So the former has been considered superior because in that if a ruler stopped from tyranny, then the benefits reach a far larger group of people in comparison to fighting the unjust people who fight you in battle. And on this note, I wanted to also bring up another hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he mentioned once that we are now coming from the lesser jihad to the greater jihad. And they had returned from battle, and he reminded them that we're coming from the lesser battle to the greater battle, which is dealing with your own self. Struggling against your own desires and your own self is the greatest struggle. And the reason why, brothers and sisters, is because in battle, the battle could end, you could win, it's all over, you come back, it's done with. Where the battle against yourself is basically from the morning you wake up until you go to bed. The battle never stops, right? When you wake up in the morning, if you're up at Fajr, the battle and the struggle is to get yourself to pray Fajr. You wake up at morning times, whenever you get up, you should be making up your prayers as soon as you can when you wake up because you didn't pray Fajr on time. That's a struggle because maybe you want to have breakfast, maybe you want to just sit around, maybe you want to do other things. You don't really feel like praying right away. That's a struggle. Going to school and learning is a struggle, right? Cooking, cleaning, working, doing your chores, the things your parents want you to do is a struggle, right? Praying your 5 times a day prayers is a struggle. Fasting in Ramadan is a struggle. And you're doing this every single day. In every single moment, you have a struggle. You have a test. You have to go against your own self, right? If you're bombarded with things you shouldn't look at, like on the internet, on social media, you're constantly being tested. You're constantly in a state of struggle against your own self, and it really never ends. The only time you're really given a break is when you go to bed. Because thank God the pen is lifted on 3 people who are not responsible. A person sleeping until they wake up, a child until they reach the age of puberty, and someone who's insane until they go and gain their sanity. And that has a lot of details, right? So when you sleep, you're not held accountable, right? That's a big blessing. So when you sleep, you give your own self a break from your own self. So this will never end. We'll always struggle against ourselves until the day we die. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Quran that, oh, you human being, your struggle is something that you will see. Your struggle is for your own good. And it's a struggle that you'll see the reward. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. Whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it in the next world. All will be taken care of. So this is something that, brothers and sisters, I remind myself and you that we are constantly in a state of our own struggle against our own selves, whether it's what we do or it's what we intend, or at times it's even what we are thinking, what we are planning. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us victory against our own selves. And Allah ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا, those who struggle for my sake, for us, but it really means His sake, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, Allah ta'ala will guide them to His paths, to His ways. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ, and verily Allah is with the doers of good. Allah is with the righteous. Allah is with those who do good. May Allah make us of those who do good. May Allah bless you. Jazakumullah khair for listening to another episode. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all tawfiq and excellence in all that we do. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was brought to you by Seeker's Guidance, the Global Islamic Seminary. Visit seekersguidance.org to access reliable Islamic knowledge taught by qualified teachers. We offer a wide range of courses, podcasts, articles, and a world-class answer service. Support us in spreading free, reliable Islamic knowledge to millions around the world by becoming a monthly supporter. Visit seekersguidance.org/donate and make a small monthly commitment today. Our beloved Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides someone to goodness will have a similar reward." So don't forget to share this podcast and spread prophetic guidance.